In this drill, let's look at some references and some awareness-based movements we can do to really help improve rib cage and spine rotation in backswing. So one we can start with today is with right hand on the belly button, left hand on the trail shoulder. So this is for right-handed players. So for those that left-handed viewers, just invert this whole procedure. So right hand on belly button, left hand on the front, the anterior part of the trail shoulder, into the start position. Being very active in that lead hand, so being very expansive, very active in that lead hand. Just glide the rib cage around the spine as you rotate. So as you kind of glide that rib cage around the spine, being very aware that it's almost in many ways how much can we move the lead hand away from the bottom hand or the right hand as we rotate through backswing. So being very active in that hand, glide the rib cage around the spine alongside, in essence, trying to produce as much space between this hand, the lead hand for me, and that bottom hand, the trail hand. When you get very aware of doing this, when you've got much more awareness and much more kind of proprioception and almost kind of feel or feedback when doing this, and it very much depends on someone's awareness of movement and their kind of training history. It's not unusual to often then feel some activity beneath that kind of bottom hand, the right hand, it would be in my case. Why? Because the muscles that really rotate that kind of rib cage and spine through backswing are those big oblique muscles that run through here. So often with a hand on the tummy and we glide the hand around that rib cage, for some you can get that slight awareness, and it really is only kind of 2 or 3%. It's not huge amounts of activity or very palpable amounts of kind of activity through that bottom hand, but certainly a very sensitive awareness of that when we glide that rib cage around the spine, we can just start to get that awareness under that kind of bottom hand. And that can be great, just for certainly giving people awareness of where rotation happens and kind of the muscles, the tissues that help produce rotation. So from really improving the awareness of what rotation is and really where rotation comes from, this drill can be very, very helpful for both increasing rotation of that rib cage, moving around the spine, the separation really from kind of T8, the diaphragm upwards. So again, really how much rotation can we get in that kind of upper part of that rib cage through the first rib down to kind of the 8th rib cage or above the diaphragm, independent of that bottom hand, that lumbar spine. So then as an add-on to once we've got that separation through that kind of upper rib cage, diaphragm, lumbar spine, another way of playing with this is whatever space you have between bottom rib or the floaty 12th rib and the top of the pelvis or the ilium, or for those that are very aware, the kind of ASIS, the anterior superior iliac spine, so the kind of fronty, very prevalent bony reference to the front of the pelvis. Whatever space we have between that bottom rib and that top of the pelvis, as we rotate through backswing, is best able maintain equal space between, or maintain the space you really establish and are aware and address between that bottom rib and the top of the pelvis. Often when we start to get lots of lateral flexion or extension or elevation of that rib cage through backswing, the space between the bottom rib and the right side of the pelvis will lengthen and increase, and then subsequently the space between the bottom rib and the left side of the pelvis will decrease and reduce through backswing. So once more, whatever space we have through the bottom rib and the top of the pelvis, as we rotate through backswing, maintain that space equal through both sides to really help avoid excessive lateral flexion, elevation and extension through backswing. And then one final one we can play with when looking to improve backswing rotation, almost using the suprasternal notch, which is this part of the kind of neck, upper rib cage, clavicle area through here. So almost the kind of Adam's apple area, although the Adam's apple is slightly higher up. Whatever space you can almost internally be aware of from the Adam's apple or the suprasternal notch to belly button, almost just internalize that just for a few seconds. Whatever space we have between here and here, as we rotate through backswing, maintain that. So once more, often when we get lots of lateral flexion and real excessive extension and elevation, the space between the bottom part of the neck and the belly button can lengthen and increase through backswing. So the space between the base of the neck, the suprasternal notch, just below the Adam's apple, and the belly button into that start position, as we rotate back, it's maintaining that space between the base of the neck and the belly button through backswing.